Welcome to All the Way Alive. This is a space for the real, the raw, the unfiltered experience of being human. I'm Carolyn, and I'm most definitely not here as a teacher or an expert. I am a fellow traveler fumbling my way through the mess and the magic of life with you. This isn't the bullshit of self-help. It's not about becoming better or fixing anything. This is about truth. It's about risk. It's about letting yourself be seen all the way through. It's about the initiations we go through in love, the ache of purpose, the wild vision, the grief, the ecstasy, the fear, all of it. Here we explore what it means to be all the way alive, to feel, to fall, to fuck it up, to try again, to listen to your body, to mine your own wisdom. There's no finish line, just this moment, just this breath, just this one wild, precious life. Let's go there. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. So I've been kind of sitting on this for a while, and it's just been super duper present. So I want to dive a little bit into the concept of German New Medicine. And part of why it's so present for me right now is because I'm watching it really shift the way that a dear, like a loved one of mine, is experiencing a health challenge. And I had my own experience with this last year that is now like a full year plus later is still really holding true. And yeah, I've kind of been in this whole health and wellness space for quite some time, and tried so many different things and explored so much that it just feels like this is really something that's calling to my heart, and something that I'd like to dive deeper and deeper into. So this is more of a personal exploration and sharing, and also an invitation, you know, if you're interested or you're curious and maybe you want to explore it more, please reach out. I can provide, you know, some direction, or perhaps we can even explore it together. So, okay, German New Medicine. Now, this is not the same thing as, like, I don't even want to call it health care. You know, we're not looking to fix anything. And this is really what underlies it all. And I'll kind of get a little bit more into that. But I want to talk about my own personal doorway in to German New Medicine. Now, it's something that I heard about over the years and was curious about, and listened to some podcasts and explored and heard some personal experiences. But it wasn't until I really was experiencing, you know, my own heightened symptoms and I was just like, I don't really know what to do about this, that I was like, okay, let's give this a go. So since I was a teenager, I experienced a lot of challenges with arrhythmia. So, you know, if I'm looking at it from a Western medical perspective, I was diagnosed with trigeminal arrhythmia. So when I get these episodes, which can happen quite frequently, I miss every third beat of my heart beating. So it's like dun dun, and then it just stops. Or sometimes it'll stop for a longer period of time. And, you know, at first I was like, oh, that's really curious. And over the years, like I'm in my early 40s now, so it's been a long time that I was experiencing it. And yeah, it just kind of took me down this path of exploring through the medical system and really never finding anything that helped it. I've definitely found things that like make it bigger and more intense, which I tend to avoid. Like I don't really take in caffeine. Like I don't really have coffee very often because that always seems to make it bigger and more pronounced. And yeah, there's quite a few things that do challenge it. Anxiety, overwhelm, all of those things, and I can tell usually when it's starting to come on. And in particular, last year, I was feeling a lot of the symptoms, and to the point where I was getting like really short of breath. I was getting chest pains and like having a hard time, just being able to focus, and it was affecting my sight. It was affecting a lot of things in my life, and I was kind of in and out of the hospital quite a bit. And I was also going through quite a stressful time in my life. So, I can see why it triggered and like where it started to show up. And so I started exploring it more deeply on my own and then with a friend. And it was a bit out of like a space of desperation and also of curiosity. I've been in the health and wellness space for a long time. I have a degree in nutrition, so I kind of started in the Western medical sphere, went into massage therapy and then holistic health and Ayurveda, and explored as many different things as I could possibly think to explore, including stuff with the mind as well, compassionate inquiry and the school for the work, and yeah, just looking for as many different tools as possible. And all the while, not really ever taking the perspective that my body and my mind was having an intelligent response to something, right? That these symptoms that I was experiencing could actually be a sign of health, a sign of healing. And so when I started to dig in a little bit deeper to German New Medicine, that is what clicked. Like it took me a while to get there, but that's one of the biggest pieces in German New Medicine that really shifted my perspective, is that symptoms are not a sign of illness typically. Symptoms are a sign that you've actually moved out of the phase of escalation, or your body being challenged, or the conflict active phase, and into a space of healing, of resolution. And so then we tend to experience symptoms. There are definitely some that are during the conflict active phase, but for the most part, the symptoms happen after. And so it's almost like when the symptoms are happening, we almost have to kind of track back a little bit to see, okay, what brought that on? And it shifted the way I was looking at it, like, wow, my body is so strong. Like, look at what it's doing. But what often ends up happening when we're in the resolution phase and those symptoms are showing up, if we don't know that our body is offering an intelligent response, it can send us into a bit of a fear spiral. Like, what is happening? Was my body failing me? That was kind of the program that was running for me, is like, why is my heart not working properly? And one of the simplest things that I did that completely shifted it was the way that I perceived and talked to my body during symptoms. So when symptoms were coming up, like I was having those immediate fear responses. And so I shifted that to really simple affirmations like, I love you, heart. Thank you so much for working so hard for me, for always taking good care of me. And I just kept affirming that, and like until I believed it and I felt it. And so in those moments, like I would stay there until I felt it in my body. And I can honestly say that it's been over a year. And if a symptom comes up, it's like brief. I haven't had any of the episodes that I was experiencing before. And that's like huge, because I don't think a year has gone by since being a teenager before that I didn't experience that. So fascinating, right? And then more recently, I've just been helping a loved one kind of navigate their own health challenges with this. And I'm just awestruck by how powerful this is, and even just that mindset piece, and understanding that really the real disease is fear. And again, remember, this is like through my experience and my perspective, so I'm not pretending to offer medical advice whatsoever. So let's talk a little bit more about what German New Medicine is, rather than just my own personal experience. So it was founded by Dr. Hammer, and so it's German New Medicine, or Germanische Heilkunde is the other name for it. And I started learning through one of Dr. Hammer's students, and so he's passed now. And so there isn't actually any training out there. He just has all of this information out there for free. I believe it's called learngnm.com. You can just basically look it up and it'll be there. And so, perhaps this could be considered controversial, because really it's pointing to the fact that there's nothing actually technically wrong. And it's often misunderstood as like saying, being basically anti-Western medicine, which it's not. It's just pointing to the fact that, that's not the root cause. That's not what's going on. And, there's opportunities for looking at these things in different ways and resolving the conflicts without continuing the cycle. So, yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the foundational aspect of it. I'm not really going to go into the story of Dr. Hammer, even though there's a really beautiful story there. Perhaps that can be another podcast episode that I weave that in. I want to talk about the 5 biological laws that underlie everything in German New Medicine, and really just even understanding these or contemplating them can be a powerful practice in and of themselves. So the first law number 1, is that every disease originates with a significant biological conflict shock. So something happens. It could be like really simple, right? It could just be an experience of overhearing somebody talking about you in a like not very flattering way, or it could be a move, or something happens with a child. It's something. It could be so subtle, or it could be something quite grand. And that conflict shock happens in a moment, and at the same time, so it affects your psyche, and it also has a corresponding reaction in an organ. So a biological reaction happens at the same time. So you've got the shock, you've got the effect in the psyche, and then you've got the effect at the organ level. So that all happens at the same time. The second, actually, let's talk about that. So let's talk about how that kind of relates to symptoms. So as an example, you have a heartbreak. Somebody tells you that they don't want to be in a relationship with you any longer, and or maybe somebody passes, like something causes like that heartbreak. And so in that moment, you have a biological effect. So the psyche, and then there's a response in the body, right? And then once that actually starts to get resolved, that's when you start to have symptoms. And yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. So law number 2 is that there is a 2-phase nature of healing. So there's a conflict active phase. So that's when things are happening, and often there's no symptoms we're just in like a heightened state, really, in some way, shape, or form. Like there's an effect, and it's stored in the body, but we're not necessarily experiencing symptoms. And then the other phase is the healing or repair phase. And so again, kind of going back to my own experience, we often mistake the healing or repair phase as the problem. So that's this whole concept of treating symptoms rather than the underlying cause. And so German New Medicine actually seeks to find that underlying cause, that original conflict shock that happened, that set us on this track or this path of, you know, the stimulus and then the response in the psyche and at the organ level, and then, you know, going into the healing phase, which then, if it's not fully resolved, which is the intent of the body and the mind, and fear enters, and we just kind of keep looping, it will become a track. It's just something that keeps happening. And there's typically a trigger or a stimulus that causes us to go back into the conflict active. And then once resolution happens, again, the symptoms start to show up. Okay, so that's law 2. The third law is related specifically to cancer and diseases of that nature, where there's, you know, unmitigated growth or replication of cells. So the tumors and kind of cancer equivalent diseases, and those tissue types. So it's basically the law of cancer, and essentially it's the body seeking to, you know, repair itself. We hold on to a trauma or an experience in order to proliferate tissue to either, you know, in the breast, it's to feed a child or to nurture loved one. It's like a biological response. So it's something that's innate or inherent in our biology, but not necessarily needed. And so the natural response when that's not needed any longer is to break down the tissue, is to allow that to kind of move through in and of its own accord. And so that would be the symptom phase, or the healing and repair phase. I'm not going to go too deep into that one. Like, each of these could be their own thing. So I'm just touching on these things quite briefly. There's law number 4, so the role of microbes as healers, not enemies. And this in and of itself is quite controversial for a lot of people, because we're in a very germ-phobic time, which is fascinating to me. I was actually just watching an episode of House, and I can't remember how long ago this episode was, but even in that one, they were talking about the creation of like superbugs, right, in hospitals that are antibiotic resistant. And they came about because of the overprescription of antibiotics and the overuse of antibiotics. And for the most part, it's not needed. And a lot of times they're prescribed for things that are basically viruses that will just naturally move through and get dealt with in their own time. So, side note there, but it's really fascinating, like living in this germ-phobic time. What we've done is really started to look at anything in the body that is bacterial or viral in nature as being bad or wrong, when in actuality, and you look through like any of the data, we have co-evolved with both bacteria and viruses. They comprise the vast majority of our digestive and immune system. They're essential to our evolution and our health. And so to even imagine eradicating them is just a ridiculous thought. And what's fascinating is they actually play an essential role in the healing and repair phase of this whole healing system. And so it breaks down or it degrades any extra tissue that's been created, or just helps things to move out. It's like a natural detox pathway, essentially. So microbes are healers, not enemies. Law number 5 is really important, and that's that there is a biological meaning behind every disease, right? So nothing is accidental. We don't just happen to get sick. Something that conflict shock at the beginning caused it. And so there's always a reason. We don't necessarily have to know exactly what the reason is, but I do find it really helpful to kind of explore it and then start to really pull those things apart. And what so I was talking to a really wonderful human who knows a lot about German New Medicine, and one of the things that she said to me, because I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, how do I fix this, when I was talking about my heart stuff? And she's like, you don't do anything. Like, you find that root cause, you tend to it, and then you don't need to let go of anything. It lets go of you. And so when we can move into that space of trust and willingness and gratitude for this inherent intelligence of the body, it moves us out of this space of fear and into a space of trust, which allows it to like finally resolve. So that track gets interrupted and the biological program gets completed. And so it's done. There's no reason for the track to continue. There's no reason to go back into the conflict active phase and then, cycle back around to the healing and repair phase. So, yeah, it really put me into a place of awe and reverence for the intelligence of the body. And like, this is something I've known inherently. And I've always been just so drawn to the healing arts, but I was looking at it through this lens of, okay, a problem comes up and then I have to fix it. Like, I have to find a way to fix it. And this flips it on its head and really speaks to the intelligence, and that, it's much less about fixing anything and more about just understanding the intelligence of the body and the mind in this beautiful system, and that nothing is accidental. So, yeah, I just love that. So one of the things that really made a big difference as well for me, and I'd been doing quite a bit of work already with the nervous system and my own nervous system, having had experiences with anxiety and noticing how much that showed up during the times when I was in resolution, and how, when I was finally able to embrace the intelligence of my body, and of course I still forget, but when I'm able to do that, like the shift that I felt in my body, the ease with which I could just relax into it, the deeper breaths I was able to take once I made that link, that just, like, that helped to ease the anxiety more than anything else that I've tried. Even breath work, like breath work has been such a big piece of my journey with experiencing anxiety. And once I came to understand the intelligence of my body and like why I might be breathing in a little bit more of an erratic way when I'm feeling anxious, like, again, bringing awareness to it, it's like it just let go of me. And yeah, I don't know how else to be but reverent to that intelligence. Like, it just shifted something big in me. So obviously this matters. It matters to me, and it matters to a lot of people who, like, oftentimes people will come to German New Medicine when everything else has failed. Now, I don't think that's the way it has to be. If we can hold this knowing and this understanding in terms of the intelligence of the body and this intelligent response, we don't have to get there. You know, it can be noticing a symptom, tracking it back to that initial shock, like immediately, and breaking that cycle before it becomes a track. But a lot of people do come to it at their wit's end, and they're just like, okay, I'm done, and they're willing to try anything. And so in that place, you know, there's a complete surrender, because there's nothing to lose. And so what is there to lose in reclaiming the trust in the body? Like that's really what it's all about, is coming back to that awareness, that knowing that the body, mind, and spirit are intelligent and intelligently woven together. And it asks us to stop fighting ourselves and to stop pathologizing everything. It's not a problem to be solved. Instead, it's these messages that we're being asked to listen to receive. And this weaves in really beautifully to the work that I'm already doing. You know, the book that I wrote this year, or finished and published, All the Way Alive, like that's what it's about. You know, aliveness, truth telling, dismantling fear, trusting the body, and just being with what is, surrendering to it. And I know it's easier said than done. Like, I'm not oblivious to the fact that that's a challenging thing to do, or it can be. It just reminds me of, you know, when I'm freaking out, or I'm having like a place where I'm just in overwhelm, and somebody tells me to calm down. I just want to tell them to fuck right off. Like, that's not really possible in that moment. And, you know, I can almost think of it as humorous, because when I remember in that space, when I'm in anxiety or I'm in this overwhelm, and I remember that the body and the mind and the spirit are intelligent, and that I am supported, and that I have a biological innate knowing, like that aliveness is what it's all about, like being all the way alive. I can surrender, I can relax into that trust. It lets go of me. I don't need to force it. I don't need to make it happen. It just happens of its own accord. Yeah. And the truth telling is a really big one. And one that I'm actually being faced with more than I thought that I would be. Like, I was like, oh yeah, I tell the truth a lot. But do I? Like, how often do I still like not want to show that side of me, right? Like the part that's struggling, or the part that's having a hard time, or is scared to let you see that I'm needing more support right now, or needing more, like feeling needy, right? And the judgment and shame that can still come up in that space. So that's another gift that this has given me, is this knowing that truth telling, like being in a space of honesty with myself and with others, is everything when it comes to this. And again, what is there to lose? Like, that's simple. And it's not easy. So I'm still learning, obviously. I'm still learning. We're always still learning. And even though I've been like really consistently learning about GNM and studying it for the past year, there's so much more to learn. And again, I'm only sharing like tidbits of it. This is just like scratching the surface of it. I haven't even really got into, the DHS or there's some terminology that really helps to describe it. And there's like brain scans that can be done, and there's like these foci or these focus in the brain that will show you, where it's actually happening. So we've got the psyche and the brain and the organ level all at the same time that are happening. And, they can do brain scans and go back and look at experiences and symptoms that you've had in the body, or like biological experiences that you've had in the body just by doing a brain scan. So we'll get into that another time. It gets to be a bit complex if I try to bring it all in at once. So I'm still learning, I'm still integrating, and I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious, I'm willing, I'm open, and I'm so grateful for this work because, yeah, as I said, I've done a lot of things and nothing's like really felt right. I was this close to going to medical school. I had bought my MCAT books, study books. I had signed up for the exam, like everything. And then I explored doing naturopathy, and then I took training in Ayurveda, and I just kept going down this path and really dedicating myself to it. And there hadn't been anything that I was like, oh yeah, because it felt like something was missing, like it was missing the underlying root cause. And so again, I'm not going to proselytize and tell you that this is the solution to every problem or every concern. What I am going to say is that it has offered me so much peace of mind and a new way of looking at the intelligence of my body and what is possible, and why symptoms might be happening and how they can relate back, and so much in that. I'm getting little ants crawling up my leg. So this is not medical advice. Once again, it's simply an exploration. It's simply a sharing of my own experience and a question and an offering. And so if you want to learn alongside me, or if you have questions, and because as I learn, this is something that I want to bring forward. It's something that I want to share, but I want to do it in a really organic way. Even in terms of learning GNM, what is recommended is like a 3-year study period at least. And during this time, basically, you're kind of dealing with your own challenges and then moving through them. And and then working with others in that way. So yeah, it's just really what's drawing my attention and my curiosity. And it weaves in so beautifully with the work that I'm doing in grief, and recognizing the preciousness of life, and how aliveness is at the heart of everything. So yeah, if you hadn't heard of German New Medicine before, I'm curious if this offered you at least something to kind of chew on a little bit, to contemplate. Does it resonate with you? Does it challenge you? Where have you noticed that the body is speaking in ways that you don't totally understand? And yeah, and perhaps also an invitation, if you haven't checked out the book All the Way Alive, I encourage it. For me, it was really vulnerable putting it out, and I wasn't like really sharing it. And now I'm starting to recognize the impact that it's had, just coming back to me from people's experience reading it. And I feel really honored. And if that's something that calls to you, or you're curious about, I'll pop a note in the show, a note in the show, a link in the show notes. And you can check it out there. You can get it as a print copy or as a digital copy. And I am still going to be working on the audiobook. I just haven't got there quite yet. So yeah, I think we'll close there for today. There's lots more that I'm looking forward to sharing about this, and also about some of the healing journeys that I've been in and on, and then also had the honor of witnessing and being a part of with others. So, yeah. Thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for exploring with me. And I look forward to continuing the exploration together. Sending much love and many blessings.